there. I'm Diane Raver, founder of the Garden State Film Festival, which is about to have its 20th anniversary, March 23rd through the 28th. And I have the great honor and privilege of introducing Jared Flesher, whose film Pine Mud is going to be presented this year. Jared, nice to be here with you.
Well, thank you for having me, and thanks for having me at the festival. Like a lot of filmmakers, I'm thrilled to be able to screen the film, in a real venue under a real roof. Over the past year and a half, we've screened outdoors a couple times, but this will be the first time we do it a little more properly.
Wonderful. Now tell us a little bit about your role in the film and what inspired you to make such an important film as in our state as you have, and tell us a little bit about Pine Mud.
Sure. So I was the director, cameraman, editor. It was an independent project that kind of started in my brain and, saw it through to the end with help from friends along the way, but, very much an independent project. And I guess to tell the story of the film, I'd have to go back to maybe 2015 when I was on a kayaking trip in the New Jersey Pine Barrens. Every year now I go on probably a 5 or 6 hour trip down the Batstow River, but it started in 2015. And the guide of that trip happened to be this really interesting local named Jason Howell. And, we were talking on the trip, and I soon learned that not only was he a canoe guide and a kayak guide, but he was a local conservationist. And he was kind of fighting this battle to protect the place he was from against illegal off-road vehicles, which is essentially if you have a big old Jeep or monster truck or a dirt bike or an ATV and you want to really throw some mud and see what it could do. A lot of people are taking it into public land in South Jersey and causing a lot of damage. And I understand the activity is fun, people enjoy it, but it's really an ecological scar on the land. So that's what the film is about. Interestingly enough, one of the reasons why I submitted to the Garden State Film Festival is last year when I was on the same exact kayak trip, the guy behind the counter, his name was Eric Ascalon. And as I understand it, he is the chairman of the board for your
That's
festival.
correct.
And apparently he does all sorts of interesting things. So he was nice enough, he handed me my paddle and life jacket, and that was the end of it. But I had two friends from Washington, D.C. coming to join us, and they were late. So Eric drove the extra mile literally by getting our friends to the launch point on time when they arrived late. And apparently on that ride, Eric and my friend Chris were talking about what they do. And Eric mentioned the Garden State Film Festival. And Chris said, you should talk to my buddy Jared. He makes documentary films. Eric said, apply to the Garden State Film Festival. And I said, I will. And here I am.
You never know where we're going to pop up, and isn't that kismet? Isn't that wonderful? So, were there any? Considering that your film takes place in a pine barren, and when people are doing what I assume are illegal activities, it's illegal for what they're doing. Is that correct?
Yes. So if you take your vehicle and you drive off a trail and you drive into a pond or over a sand dune, it's illegal. One of the reasons it's a complicated issue is there's also legal things you could do there. You can drive your Jeep on, sand roads. And a lot of people follow the rules. Some people don't. And kind of the challenge with policing it is how do you stop the bad apples without infringing too much on the rights of people who are following the rules? So it's this kind of classic controversy between, how do you police something that is really popular and that people don't want to give up their rights to do it?
Well, more importantly for our viewers would be, how do you film something like that? Did you have to hide in the trees, or how did you manage to get the footage that you got?
So, interestingly enough, if you hop on YouTube and you type in New Jersey Pine Barrens and mudding or off-roading, everybody goes down there. They want to show the world what they're doing, even if it's illegal. So there's a lot of people out there with their phones and their cameras filming themselves. So I was just another guy with my camera. You do the nod or the wave and you just act like you're supposed to be there. And that's how I got the footage, just kind of blended in with the environment.
Right. Wow. I guess there's no accounting for boneheads. All right. And how did you shoot it? What were you what were you using? If you were, I mean, did you use phone footage? I explain that to us.
Let's see. So as I mentioned, I started working on the film late 2015, 2016. So I started with a little camera, actually, that looks a lot like this. I don't know if you can see it. There you go. So pretty nondescript, indiscreet.
Right.
And then there's a little bigger camera called the Blackmagic Pocket 4K for other shooters out there. And I shot with that as well. And then there is some footage that I sourced off of YouTube and places like that, because as I mentioned, you could spend days and days and days watching legal off-roading footage that's posted on YouTube from the Pine Barrens.
Unbelievable. Okay. Was there any advice you'd have for other filmmakers that you learned during this particular shoot, as opposed to, I mean, you have a long resume, if you want to speak to that, and how is this different, and what advice would you have? Because this is, again, this is a controversial topic, and I wondered what challenges that presented.
I think my advice would be similar advice I give with any film project, where it is finding an interesting character, someone you could tie your story to, someone who is going on a journey of their own, is always a great strategy. So I was very lucky early on to meet this conservationist, Jason Howell. And I didn't know when I started that he would be such a big part of the story. But he ended up being a huge part. And then for any documentary filmmaker, it can be a tough business. The fundraising part is challenging. Apparently, one of my great-grandfathers, who was from Eastern Europe, used to tell my mother when she was a little girl all the time, starta, finish. And I think that's in broken English, that's how he would say it. And I think that's great advice for any filmmaker. Just get going, see where it goes. When I started Pine Mud, I thought it might be a 5-minute film or then a 15-minute film, and it grew into, being an hour. And just get started.
Well, that's an interesting topic too, because sometimes, and not in this case, but sometimes a film should really be 40 minutes. You know what I mean? So getting tighter films, of overall looking at submissions over the last 20 years, keeping a film tight and strapped to the story is really an important lesson for all filmmakers, because we all fall in love with our footage. There's no question.
Well, that actually, you saying that reminds me of another important lesson, especially for someone like me who, I shoot my film, I edit my film. It's really important to have other people who will keep you honest and, kind of tell you like, that scene. So, I have my own network of friends and colleagues and people I know who will watch cuts and keep me honest and tell me what I'm doing wrong. And then it's really hard because we fall in love with our own films, our own work. And you have to be willing to cut and listen to advice. But then sometimes, every once in a while, you have to know when not to listen and just keep it anyway.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep, that's true. Well, I want to give you a congratulations again from all of us at the Garden State Film Festival for creating an important and fabulous film that will play on live and the Berkeley Continental Room, BC 24, on Saturday, the 26th of March at 11:45. We hope everyone will tune in. Or for the week after this year, you can see it virtually, video on demand. And for tickets and more information, please go to our website at gsff.org. And thank you again, Jared, for being with us. And we'll see you at the movies.
Yeah, thanks so much. I look forward to seeing everybody in March.